What's up YouTube? This is my 2008 Corvette C6 Z06. This has been a video that's kind of been a long time coming. I've had a lot of people ask me about this car in other videos. I've done little things here and there on it, just other videos, and people always want to know more about it. So today's that day. I had some really great weather and I decided to pull it out and film it. I am going to do this video a little bit different. I'm going to try and incorporate the pictures from the past, the story behind the car, the build, what's done to it, what I plan to do with it, and I'll just kind of all mix it up into one video here so you can see it. So you'll see some cutaway shots of some older photos I have of it and how I got the car and everything like that, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So this is my 2008 Corvette Z06 LS7 427. Does have some work done to it, and I've had the car since July 15th of 2017. In this picture, you'll see that the Camaro is sitting next to the Corvette. That was my 1LE Camaro. That car I had purchased back in 2014 or 15. I can't remember now. It's been a while. But I purchased the car, liked it. I was a big Camaro person at the time. And my wife, as you see in this photo, was actually at a concert. And that night I was sitting at home. I was like, you know what way can I make my 29th birthday a blast and something I'll remember? And I went looking online and found the 2008 Corvette Z06. It wasn't that I disliked the Camaro 1LE. The Camaro was fun. It was fine. But I just felt like the car was extremely heavy. It was slow. It was a 6-speed because that's how all 1LEs came. LS3. And the car was actually really fast for what it was. But it was still a dog compared to most cars of these days as far as I'm concerned. It just seemed like it was always too heavy to get out of its own way. First gear wasn't that great. The car is really kind of set up for road course from the factory, and that's not something I was planning on doing. I just wanted to drive and enjoy the car. I actually had dragged my wife to the dealership on our anniversary to get this car. It had like 30,000 miles on it. It was really clean. Came out of Miami. I had it shipped up to Clearwater, to a dealership there in Clearwater, and the girl that I was dealing with was real nice, and bought the car, drove it for several years, enjoyed it, but it just wasn't exactly what I wanted. I'm about 6'5". I kind of felt like the car had no headroom, definitely had some serious blind spots. It just never suited me the way I thought it would, and I, at this point, had several Camaros and 4th gens, you know, 1st gens, things like that. And in fact, in this photo, you can actually see my 1st gen Camaro with my 1LE Camaro. That was I think that was actually the day after I bought the car. The 67 Camaro I've had for a long time, and always just kind of been a Camaro person. Here's some other shots of it with the 67. Again, I drove that car actually quite a bit, more than I drive the Corvette, but again, it just never really was something I was in love with. It was when I first got it, but later it just wasn't. So here's the dealership that I ended up purchasing the Corvette from. I had taken the 1LE down there. My wife had been out all night the night before for a concert, and I was thinking, what way could I make my 28th or 29th birthday a lot of fun and just memorable? And I was like, well, let me get my midlife crisis car before I have my midlife crisis. And the next day on my birthday, hopped up in the morning, hopped in the 1LE, drove all the way down to Tarpon Springs to this Carl Flammer Ford. And needless to say, it was not a great experience by any means. The gentleman I had spoke to on the phone was awesome. My salesman, I'm not going to mention his name, he was really good. He was cool. When I talked to him on the phone, he was very upfront with me about the car, told me, you know, there was no damage or anything, told me about the miles, confirmed it with me, and I asked him, you know, is this something that you'd be willing to take a trade-in on? I wanted to make sure, because where the car was located was actually a long way from where I actually lived, and I didn't want to get all the way down there and run into any issues, because later that evening, I was actually celebrating my birthday with a bunch of my friends. So we loaded up. The guy at the dealership told me, you know, it was good to go, and he'd see me in the morning, so I called him on the way down there the next morning and said, hey, I'm on my way. He was already there, and we drove down to Carl Flammer Ford. Now, the car in the advertisement, which I don't think I still have pictures of, they had listed it came with a 90-day warranty. And I thought, well, that's all right, because, I mean, not that I can't fix most of what would go wrong with the car, I still wanted some sort of warranty in the event that I purchased the car. And so I drove down there. I was pretty excited and got to the dealership, found the car. It was right there on the front line. Couldn't miss it. And just kind of started looking at the car, and the salesman came out and greeted us. He was, again, very nice guy. And looked the car over and asked him if I could take it for a test drive. And he said sure, and that's pretty much how it went from the beginning. And drove the car. It ran great. Everything was good. The funny thing is when I fired the car up, I thought maybe the car was cammed and it still had the stock exhaust. So pulled the e-brake, got out of the car, walked around the back, listened to the exhaust. I'm like, this thing's actually cammed. And I said that to the salesman. I said, the car is cammed. And he goes, oh, is that a bad thing? That right there kind of told me that he had no idea much about performance cars or anything like that. And I said, no, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I said, I just want to make sure that whoever worked on this engine knew what they were doing so I don't run into the issues later. And he said, well, you know, take it for a test drive, see what you think. I got it out on US 19 in Tarpon Springs, and got a little bit up from the dealership and just let it rip, and the car just screamed. I was pretty much hooked. I only drove it about 2 miles and went back to the dealer and told him, all right, let's get the paperwork going. Let's make this happen. And we did. So, and the reason I say this experience at the dealership was so bad was because once I started making the deal with them, they started backtracking on some of the things that they had promised or said. And they went outside and looked at my Camaro and told me, oh, well, the Camaro needs all 4 new tires. And I was like, no, it doesn't. And these are those guys in the dealerships with the slick haircuts and the pants that don't go all the way down to their socks. They look ridiculous. I deal with these guys on a regular basis with my job, and I personally think they're a joke. But this guy was the manager of the sales people or whatever, and he came in there and tried to start working me. And when he left the office, I was pissed. And some of the things that he had said about my Camaro, and he was like, well, the car had been in a rear accident in 2014. And I said, yeah, it was before I bought it. It was bumped into the rear. And he goes, wow, we're not going to be able to give you anywhere near what you're wanting. So he started playing the game with me. And this was after I'd already kind of discussed with them everything I was looking to get out of the car. And they started trying to jip me on my car. So when they brought down the price of what they were going to give me for the Camaro, I told them, well, I want you to bring down the price of the Corvette. And they didn't want to work with me. And I said, let me get this straight. I've come all the way down here wanting to make a deal with you guys, and you just don't want to work with me, and you just want to lowball my car so you can get out ahead on it when you go to sell it, which I understand. You know, dealers got to make money too. I'm not against anybody making money, but I'm not going to get ripped off. So they ended up actually lowering the price of the Corvette. I'm not going to go into huge detail over everything, but then when I decided to go ahead and sign papers to purchase the Corvette and basically release the Camaro to them, they started telling me, well, there's no warranty on this Corvette. And I said, BS, you know, you guys put it in your ad that there's a 90-day warranty. And they said, well, we're not going to give you any kind of warranty on the car. And I was like, well, how convenient for me to be signing papers right now, and then you come in and tell me this. So they basically kind of tried to jerk me around for a while, and I ended up dealing with another manager who was actually a really nice guy, and me and him ended up making a really good deal. I was happy with what I got on the Camaro, and I'll just be upfront. I ended up getting the Corvette, and you can say what you want about politics. I think politics is bad business to begin with in any fashion, but during that time, the economy was a whole lot better than it is right now. And I ended up getting the car for $30, and I ended up actually just over $30 after taxes, but I got the car for $30. They gave me like $25 on the Camaro, and I was actually happy with that deal, dealing with the other manager. And I told the other manager, I said, this guy over here, the one that was such a jerk, I said, you guys really need to find somebody better, because I almost walked out on the deal. So signed some paperwork, and as I'm signing the paperwork, the guy actually says to me, you know, I know he told you no warranty. That's not okay. If anything happens to the car in the next 90 days, come back, see me, talk to me directly. I will take care of you personally. And he goes, I'll make sure we'll make whatever we need to right. I said, okay, cool. So I ended up leaving, going to get in the car to leave because I had to make it to my birthday party later, and the car wouldn't start. So I was pretty pissed, and I walked back in the dealership. I said, hey, I think the battery's shot. And the guy goes, well, what makes you think it's a battery? This is, again, the jerk salesman, the manager guy. And I said, I've been doing stuff on cars for a long time. I know my cars. And I said, I think the battery's bad. So I went out there, and like an idiot, after basically saying I know about cars, I popped the hood to look for the battery, not realizing in my head at that moment that the battery's actually in the trunk on this car. And so, you know, like my C5, it's in the engine bay, you know, no big deal. So I ended up going back to the battery. The battery was old. It was shot. So they go, well, let us pull it around. We'll put a new battery in it for you, and you'll be good to go. And they did. So they did make it right. And I actually ended up getting a call from them days later on my experience there. And I kind of told the girl I was not happy with how I was treated there by the sales manager, and how they tried to really kind of jerk me around. And I said, I won't be back to do any business with you, but I am happy with the car, and that's all that matters. And I felt like if anything did happen with the car, at least I could fix it. So enough rambling about that. So I said goodbye to the 1LE and was basically on my way. I do get attached to cars, so I didn't like seeing it sit there at the dealer. And I actually forgot the spare keys for it and told my salesman, you know, whoever buys the car, give them my number. I'll be happy to meet up with them and give them the spare keys that I forgot at the house. And I'll be happy to meet up with them somewhere and give it to them. But I wasn't going to drive all the way back down there. And he said, all right, as long as it's okay with you that I give out their info. I said, sure. So then I asked him, do you have the info of the guy that traded in this Corvette? And he said, I can't give out the info. It's not a policy that we're allowed to do. And I said, I understand. And he goes, but the pilot, the guy that owned it was a Delta Airlines pilot, which is funny because that's where my dad retired, is from Delta Airlines. And he goes, the guy traded it in to get a Raptor. He was going to be traveling back and forth to dealerships, airports, and he was going to be basically needing something that could hold more luggage and was also going to be a fun ride. So that's why he traded it in. The only reason I wanted his info was so I could figure out what all was actually done to the car and what he had done to it. But I wasn't able to get his info. So just basically ended up leaving the dealership, going on, enjoying my party. This was my wife there at the dealership with me when I bought the car. I got to give it to her. She's my ride or die when it comes to the car stuff, because I bought the 1LE on our anniversary, and then she'd been out the whole night before at a concert with her friends, and I dragged her to the dealership that day on my birthday, and she sits through it. She's a trooper. She did not care for the people at the dealership other than our salesman. She thought they were all real jackasses. So about 2 months later, I get a text message from a guy, and this was his message: when can I get the keys? And I wrote him back and I said, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. And he goes, I bought your car at the Carl Flamer Ford. When can I get the keys? And I wrote him back and I said, well, hello, my name's Doc. Nice to meet you. Like, I'm trying to be a little bit, nice to the guy, polite. And I said, this is what's done to the car. This is when I bought it. This is where it's been. And just gave him some info and sent him some pictures. He wrote me back. He goes, great, when can I get the keys? Just complete jerk. And I said, yeah, I'll figure out something when I get home. And I never texted him back. And about a week later, when am I getting the keys? I wrote him back. I said, you're not getting the keys. I said, stop texting me. And I never heard from him again. The guy was such a jerk. I was like, forget you. I'm not going to waste my time going out of my way to go meet you wherever it is you want to meet to give you these keys. So I still have the keys sitting here at this point. But enough rambling on, back to the Corvette at this point. So we had a flawless ride home, no issues, no nothing, just basically drove the car back home. At this point in this picture, it's about 3 o'clock. The party I was having was starting at 5, and this is my old house with my driveway and how it looked. There's my Trans Am on the left there, WS6, and then I had a sunset orange metallic WS6 under the car cover next to it, and the back left was my Camaro Super Sport, which I still have. I love that car. And we stopped by the house, had to run, get some stuff, and then we were on to the party. And here's a roll-in shot of the car at the party, or on the way to the party. And then I get to the party, and a buddy of mine shows up in a car that he was purchasing. And it was a C5, built C5 Corvette, just a base model, but still nice car. And I was like, what are the odds of that? We both ended up with black Corvettes on the same day, so I thought that was pretty funny. And of course, my dad wasn't happy. He really liked the Camaro. He was like, why'd you get rid of the Camaro? And I said, I just really wanted a Corvette. I've been talking about it for a while. And he loves the Corvette now. He would absolutely give anything to get it off my hands. And in the background of this photo, you can see my mom's Grand Sport. It is a convertible automatic car, but it's a very nice car. I love driving that car. So my dad's also got a 62 Corvette. So we're kind of a family of Corvette owners, and we drive and enjoy them. I don't drive mine much. My dad doesn't drive his 62 much, but my mom actually daily drives the Grand Sport. So it was kind of fitting for me to get it. And as people showed up to the party, they're like, what is this car? And I was like, yeah, I just made a move on my birthday. Wasn't even planning it. A year before that, I'd thought about it, but I thought the prices on these cars are not going to get any lower. So it was time to jump and get one. And here's another shot of his car. He's had that car since the early 70s, like 70 or 71. So he's had it a long time. Here's a picture of them together. Both of them pretty much identical, just many years apart. So it's kind of entertaining to get them together, because here's one from 62 and here's one from 2008, and how far the cars have come engineering wise and just design. So I'm not going to cover every little thing that has taken place over the years, but me and my wife ended up having a daughter we ended up moving, got a bigger garage, and basically just kind of did some work to the car over time. I had mentioned earlier in the video that in the glove box was the gentleman's information that had previously owned the car. So I went searching for him, and I found his mom on Facebook, and I couldn't message him, and his profile was very private. So I ended up trying to find him on Instagram, and I actually did, and I wrote him, and I said, hey, and I sent him a picture of the car. I said, this is, I believe this is your old Corvette. Do you mind speaking with me about it? And about 2 days later, he wrote me back, sent me his phone number, said, sure, call me anytime. So I ended up calling the guy, and we spoke for a bit, and he did inform me he was, in fact, an airline pilot, and he needed the Raptor and so on and so forth. So that was all true. And I said, you know, I noticed the car is cammed. I said, what all do you have done to it? If you don't know, LS7s have an issue with dropping valves. And they basically there's a flaw in the head that allows the valve to kind of just get loose, and then it drops a valve, and next thing you know, you're out of an engine because generally it's not able to be rebuilt. So you're talking about a very expensive issue that GM never addressed. So I was kind of hoping the heads had been fixed on the car. And so first thing out of my mouth when I got him on the phone was I appreciated him taking the time to talk to me about it. And he was very nice. And I said, you know, what all's done to the car? And for about 20 minutes, he spent telling me what all he had done to the car. It had gone to Van Steel to get some suspension work, and it did have Van Steel suspension. It also had West Coast cylinder heads, did the heads on the car. They were pretty much maxed out. Factory heads, bronze valve guides, you know, better valve springs, so on and so forth. Everything off the top of my head is just not right there, but he ended up also doing some additional stuff. He added cooling fans and brake ducts for the front brakes, and he began to tell me that he actually tracked the car at Sebring. And it was at the point where he was doing so well with the car that he ended up needing to put a cage in it, which would explain the bar I have in the back for the seatbelt for like a 5-point harness kind of thing, or a 4-point harness, whatever they call it. And I said, you know, what's the info on the cam? And he told me it's a K-Tech 112 or 110 torquer cam, which was great for the setup he needed. He road coursed the car, but he took very good care of it. And some of the pictures you just saw previous to this were it at the track when he had it, and those were his pictures. And we spent a lot of time going over what all was done to the car, which was a surprisingly very long list. But I was way happier after getting off the phone with him because I found out the heads had been fixed, what all he had done to it. You know, he had told me about some of his racing stories. He took first place many times. And anyway, I kind of stayed in touch with him for a little bit after that, and then we lost contact. And this is actually a picture of it later on when I finally got into a bigger garage, and I was really big into sport bikes at that time. And you'll see a R1 there on the left, R6, and then next to the Corvette, in between the two, is a CBR 1000 and a Gixxer 1000. And pretty much I had every 1000 except Kawasaki. Special edition from like 06, 07 right then. And my yellow Corvette in the back there is not the Z06 that you see in my other videos. That was actually a Z51 car that I had picked up. But the Corvette's always been in a good place. It's always had been well taken care of, hasn't been abused. When I picked the car up, it only had like, I want to say 39,000 or 40,000 miles. And as of making this video today, it's got 47,000 on it. So no, I haven't driven it a lot in the last 7 years, but I am happy to say that it has been well taken care of in that sense. And I did, you know, the exhaust work to it, did some other things, and I could go on and on. I'm not going to try and bore everybody with every little detail of the video, but just giving you some of the car's history and just what all it's been through before I had it. And I found out that the car actually had dropped a valve when he owned it, and the bottom end was all brand new, and the heads were redone, and well, the heads were actually replaced with some factory heads that were sent to West Coast cylinder heads and then maxed out. So this 47,000 mile car has only got 10,000 miles on the engine at this point, and the trans in these cars are solid, so I have nothing to worry about there. And you wouldn't really know it'd been tracked But it did have a lot of great things on it that I did not expect, and things that I have later found that he never even told me about. So it's pretty cool to pick up something and not really know, and then later find out how much of a good deal you ended up getting, because in all reality, this car should have been at that time probably about 45 to 50,000, and like I said, I picked it up for 30. So. And although I don't drive the car often, I still get the same 3 questions everywhere I go. Is it for sale? I get a lot of that. I also get people asking me about the interior because it is very odd. And I also get people asking me about the wheels because everybody loves the wheels. The interior on this car is one of 295. They called it ebony brick, which is black leather with that brick color interior. And it is very unique. I've only ever seen one other one for sale all this time that I've had this, with that same color interior. So on a Z06, this is a 3LZ, so it came with pretty much all the options that somebody could get. And that's one of my favorite things about the car is the interior. And of course, I always get people asking me about the wheels. It has Willwood brakes on it. The previous owner put those on. I'm not crazy about it. It took me a very long time to get these wheels to work with those calipers. And I ended up having to run longer studs, spacers, readjusting the ride height on all 4 corners. I went through hell trying to get these wheels to work. So I love the wheels, not crazy about the brakes. Again, I'm not road coursing the car. I love the Brembo brakes, and especially since they were probably powder coated from the factory, which I still plan to powder coat these Willwoods, the calipers, but I might just paint them. I'm not sure. A lot of people want the Willwoods, but I could care less to have them. The Brembos work just fine for me. I'm not out here trying to break records or anything like that with it. But if you're curious about the wheels, they are Icons. I forget which model. If you leave a comment down below, I'll be happy to answer you with exactly what model wheels, but they don't make them anymore, so they are going to be hard to find. However, there are other brands out there that have that same design of the center part of the wheel, so I'm sure somebody could set you up with something close enough anyway. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. A couple questions I have for people who did watch the video. Did you like these wheels more than the black wheels that originally came on the car, or did you like the custom wheels a little bit more? It seems like there's a large group of people out there that actually liked the black wheels, which kind of surprised me because I didn't much care for them. And my next question is, do you feel like the C6 is that much better of a car than the C5? I did this debate before with people, and it seemed like the majority of the comments really went for the C5 Z06, which, if you watch my channel, you know I have the C5 Z06, and I love that car. I actually prefer a lot of the characteristics of the C5 Z06 over the C6 Z06. So tell me what you like more between the two. Please leave a comment. Make sure to like. If you like, it'll help my channel, and also subscribe, and you'll see more on this car to come. Kind of ran out of time today. But here's some of the shots I took, and I probably already featured a lot of them, but it's such a nice car. How can you not watch it? So thanks again for watching. Appreciate you. Like and subscribe. See you on the next one.